Okay, now we're going to set up the wheels. Here I have a set of Hunt 4-season Aero wheels that are tubeless. So these already come taped with tubeless rim tape. First thing I'm going to do is put in the tubeless valve, and let's find the opening. And actually, before I put that through, I'm just going to maybe enlarge the hole in the tape by using a valve core. So I'll just poke that through the tape a little bit to make the hole a little bigger. And then we'll put our valve through. And actually, before I put that all the way in, I'm just going to put a little bit of sealant on it, and that will help that area seal. So let's actually push this down here, and then we'll just pour like a little bit of sealant right there. Then I'm going to use my valve nut to screw this down on the other side so that it is held in place. And that sealant should help it make a nice seal. Next, I'm going to mount the tire. I have these WTB Exposure 30mm tires, which happens to be the widest tire you can fit on this frame. These are tubeless tires, so they should set up well with these tubeless wheels. Okay, I've mounted one side by hand, and I'm just going to move this a little bit because just for aesthetic reasons I like the logo to match up with the valve stem. So I'm just going to scoot this down a little bit so that it lines up. So now that the logo lines up with the valve stem, I'm going to, by hand, mount the rest of this tire. So on this last section here, before I close it up, I'm going to actually put the sealant in at this point. Now, so I have this orange seal, which I've used on tires before. It works pretty well. And I'm just going to pour in roughly 2-3 ounces. Let's pour that into the tire here. Okay, then I'm going to turn the wheel slowly so that it goes to the other side in the bottom. And then I'm going to try to mount the rest of this tire. Okay, I got my levers here. You're just going to want to do it pretty gently so you don't damage the tire bead or the rim tape. So just nice and easy. Okay, so now it's been mounted. So I'm just going to rotate this tire around so that the sealant sort of gets on every part of the bead. And then I'll just set the wheel right here on this stand here. And I'm going to put the valve stem at the top, like this. Then I'm going to use my charger pump, connect this to the valve right here. And then I'm going to use my floor pump and just pump it up all the way. So I'm going to connect this here. I'm going to charge this pump all the way up. Now, depending on the tire and wheel combo, some of them are really hard to seat, some of them go on real easily, so you never really know till you try it. Okay, we'll try 150 here. And I'm just going to release the pressure and see what happens. Hold your breath, cross your fingers. Well, you can see that it's like, oh, it's seating. Let me quickly pump it up. Okay, seems to have worked. So let's just let it sit here for a minute and look at the bead. You can see it's bubbling there. Okay, so far so good. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to release the pump, and it's going to release all the air, and then I'm going to replace this valve core. So the air is going to come out, but hopefully the bead's been seated so that we can just pump it up, by hand. So I'm going to take this off. Air's going to come out. I'm going to quickly install this valve core. Okay, and then I'm going to continue pumping. So I'm going to connect my pump directly to the valve and see if the bead still holds, which it seems like it is because it's holding pressure. I'm going to start at 50 psi. Take this off, tighten it, and just look it over. So what I'm looking for is the bead to be evenly seated around the entire rim, which it does look like it is. And we'll check the other side as well. Also appears to be evenly seated. And I'm also going to rotate the tire like this to make sure that the sealant goes around the whole wheel and fills in any gaps. So if we did it right, then these should be set up pretty well. Okay, now that this tire has been seated, I'm going to install my cassette. And before I do that, we will add just a little bit of grease on the splines here. You don't need a whole lot. Again, just want to basically just kind of do a really thin layer of grease, and that's to help prevent any sort of noises, creaks, or squeaks down the line. And then we'll just install the cassette one section at a time. So you'll see that on the spline, if it's a Shimano or SRAM hub, you'll have one spline that's like different sized, and you just match that up with the matching little tooth there on the cassette. So we'll drop this on. This is a Sunrace 1142. It's a mountain cassette, 11 speed. Put that over. And there's a spacer. Next piece. Another spacer. There we go. And then at the end you have your lock ring. You're going to put that on. Now this is very easy to cross thread or put on like incorrectly, so do it by hand first, slowly, so you don't risk cross threading it. And then we'll finish it with a lock ring tool. It's a Shimano SRAM lock ring tool. Just put that in there, rotate, and then I will use a wrench to tighten it the rest of the way. Now you can make it pretty tight, but on the other hand, you don't really have to necessarily, because when you pedal it will self-tighten. So we'll make it tight, but we don't have to over tighten it. So I think that's probably good, like that. Okay. The final thing I'm going to do is install my skewer. The side with the lever is going to go on the non-drive side, so I'm going to go from the other side. So that's going to come through this side and out this side. Put on the little spring, and then put on the locking nut, and then finally we'll take this wheel off and we will attach it to the frame. There we go. Well, okay, we're good. Looks pretty nice. And it does clear the frame over here and up here. It's pretty close, but it does clear it. So I don't think you could go any bigger than 30 millimeters, maybe 32, but that would be really close. But this is a good fit. So I'm gonna do the same thing with the front tire, set that up tubeless, but obviously we don't need a cassette, so we're just gonna set up the tires. Okay, so I've already seated the other tire tubeless, so that's set up. I put the skewer in and installed it into the fork, so now both of our wheels and tires are done. So at this point we're basically just going to put in our cables, our chain, adjust everything, index everything, and then kind of finish up.